there's a statement that one of the mashayikh made, one of the scholars made. I'm going to see if you understand its relevance here. He says that if you see anybody who's answering every question he's asked and articulating and conveying everything that he has witnessed and remembering everything that he has learnt about, then from that you can understand how much ignorance he has. I'll leave that to you to figure that out. We can have a discussion about that later. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, amma ba'd. Dear brothers and sisters, may Allah reward this author. We move on in our series of Ibn Ata'illah's Al-Hikam. The next one is 161, which is on page 107. This is what he says. استشرافك أن يعلم الخلق بخصوصيتك دليل على عدم صدقك في عبوديتك. استشرافك أن يعلم الخلق بخصوصيتك دليل على عدم صدقك في عبوديتك. This adds another dimension to what we were discussing last time as to what showing off is and how it's so subtle and it's so difficult to avoid. So here he's giving us another idea, another dimension. Again, I've benefited from this, inshaAllah. He says, your desire that people know your particular distinction is a proof of insincerity in your servanthood. Think about that. If we have something special about us, we're very good at something, or we've acquired something, or we have a skill set, or we've achieved tawakkul, or we make sure we're very regular on worship, or we've developed a sense of contentment or generosity or whatever it is, and now we want people to know about it. So that's why he's saying your desire that people know your particular distinction is a proof of insincerity in your servanthood. Now there are caveats here. Sometimes you need to tell people because you need to set something right. So those exceptional cases are exceptions, right? This is just, I want people to know so they respect me or they honor me more. Now, so let's see how we can understand that better. So, إذا خصك الحق تعالى بخصوصية. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, mashallah, given you a specific characteristic or an excellence, a merit, a skill, or some kind of religious achievement. For example, one of the praiseworthy, He's given you zuhud. You just don't care about the world too much anymore. You use it for its utility only. You're not after your cars anymore as you used to be. You're not after clothing anymore as you used to be. You just get it, You don't go after the latest phones and etc. etc. And mashallah, like you're focused on the akhirah now. You'd rather be in the masjid. You'd rather be praying. You'd rather do some extra tasbih, etc. For example, a wara, or scrupulousness, and you're very careful about what you take with halal or haram, and you're very careful about that. Allah has given you. Before you never used to care, now you do. Or tawakkul, reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or you're very satisfied with Allah's decreed. Before you used to always be stressed and aggravated, always under some kind of tension, but now it's like, whatever Allah wills, it's a wonderful place to be, right? You see, shaitan doesn't want us to achieve any of this, but when we do achieve it, then shaitan wants to mess it up. So then he says, okay, you need to let people know you've got this, because then that's an achievement. So we want people to know our achievements, especially in this world we're in, where fame has taken on a whole new dimension, hasn't it? Through social media and so on. Or taslim, or that you're always submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it's so easy for us to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or you've developed a love for Allah, mahabba, a love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or you've developed a conviction in your heart, so nothing now shakes your faith. You used to always be confused about stuff. Why is this like this in Islam, and why is it like that in Islam? Why can't we do this and why can't we do that? discrimination, this, that and the other. Now it's like, no man, this is it. I've got that yaqeen and conviction. These are all very important things. Oh, ma'rifah, oh, mashallah, you've recognized Allah, like you know who Allah is now, right? To a higher degree. Or, أو أظهر على يديك كرامة حسية أو معنوية. Or maybe you've had a few miracles. You know, maybe you found money under your mattress. Subhanallah. I don't know how often that happens. Allah usually works behind a veil. So you might not find money under your mattress, but somebody might give you a gift that you didn't expect. Right? For example, you might get a good deal in something you sell or something like that. Allah has multiple ways of doing things anyway. So, I mean, I'm not saying that's a karama, but if you want to think that's a karama or something else, just amazing happen. There's lots of things that can happen. You were quite sure you're going to miss your flight and you didn't miss your flight. And you suddenly saying that must be because I'm very pious. Multiple things like that. So you had some special things happen to you, whether that be something perceptible, people can see it, whether you can explain it, whether you can't explain it. Or if you move on from that, you manage to, before you never would come up with any kind of wise ideas, and now mashallah you're coming up with wisdoms. Suddenly this door of wisdom is opened up for you, so now you're actually speaking with wisdom, and people are saying, wow, where did you come up that with? You know, your tweets are now much better and your Facebook posts are better, and I mean, that's just putting it on the whole social media thing, but you know what I mean? It's just that you're starting to speak a lot more sense and people are listening to you, and you realize that, have I become wise? Have I finally turned 40? Whatever it may be, something that's happened. And then after that, once all of these things happen, remember, now shaitan comes and he wants to mess it up so that you don't get the benefit of it, the full benefit of it. ثُمَّ اسْتَشْرَفْتَ. Then now you are wanting to show others. You want other people to know this. Right? Now, of course, there could be exceptions to this where you want people to know so they could take it on purely for that sake. Very difficult to think of that without having any ego involved in that. وَتَمَنَّيْتَ أَنْ يَعْلَمَ الْخَلْقِ بِخُصُوصِيَّتِكَ. And you have this eagerness and this hope that people know about this distinction of yours so that they'll mention it. فَذَلِكَ دَلِيلٌ عَلَى وُجُودِ الرِّيَاءِ الْخَفِيِّ فِي بَاطِنِكَ. This is evidence and proof that you still have subtle showing off and ostentation in your hearts. Yeah, so you see, I got a question the other day. Somebody said that he had achieved one of these things where he was very satisfied with one aspect of Islam, but he says, why doesn't the other side come? I said, they're different things. You have to work on each individual thing. Yes, any achievement in Islam, you get in tawakkul, that's going to help you in other things, but you could have tawakkul, but you may still have riya. You may still want to show off with it. So we have to work on everything and first diagnose what the problem is. Could be multiple problems, right? So they all need to be sorted out. So anyway, he says that this is definitely evidence that there's still that subtle showing off and boasting inside you. وَدَلِيلٌ عَلَىٰ عَدَمِ صِدْقِكَ فِي عُبُودِيَّتِكَ. And it's also proof that you don't have sincerity in your obedience and your servitude to Allah. Because servitude to Allah must be everything for Allah. I don't care about anybody else, whether they know or not. In fact, I'd rather they don't know, because that just creates a challenge, right? But anta kadhibun fiha. In fact, you're an absolute false. You are a liar in that regard. إذ لو كنت صادقا في عبوديتك. Because if you are absolutely truthful in your servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لَكْتَفَيْتَ بِعِلْمِ اللَّهِ. Then you would have sufficed that just Allah knows. As long as Allah knows that I've got tawakkul, that's enough for me. As long as He knows that I'm being careful, that's enough for me, because that's what I'm doing it for, not for anyone else. وَقَنَعْتَ بِمُرَاقَبَتِهِ إِيَّاكَ. And you're satisfied that He's watching you. That's all you need to be worried about. You don't care about anybody else. وَاسْتَغْنَيْتَ بِهِ عَنْ رُؤْيَةِ غَيْرِهِ. And that gives you independence of being concerned about anybody else, recognizing your favors to them or anything else. Very difficult place to be when you've really done a lot for someone, and then after that they don't recognize it. It hurts. That is very, very difficult. The only antidote to that is to do it purely for the sake of Allah. And when you do it for the sake of Allah, then nothing can affect you anymore. Because then you don't care what the world throws at you, because you're only worried about Allah. And Allah will never violate whatever He's promised. He'll never go against that. And He knows exactly the best way to do it. He doesn't make mistakes, whereas people do make mistakes, right? فَالْوَاجِب, that's why it's necessary, right, in this path of spirituality, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, mashallah, specially selected a person with a special merit, with a special excellence, كَتْمُهَا, to hide it, to conceal it. وَجَحْدُهَا, to literally reject it. Like if somebody says, hey, mashallah, you got a lot of tawakkul. No. Right? وَسِتْرُهَا, and to veil it, except from your guide, except from the person that you've taken as a teacher to help you figure these things out and take you on a path, your teacher. Because he needs to know so that if you think you got something, at least he can say whether he recognizes it or not, or whether it's just shaitan making you think you got tawakkul and you don't really have it. Right? Somebody gave me a really beautiful oud, which is a perfume, the other day. It's from Vietnam. It's amazing. Yeah, he gave me a lot of virtues for it. Has a lot of silage. It lasts for a long time. He said, calls me the next day, he said, have you tried it yet? So I had tried a bit of it, but I was very busy, so I didn't really get to try it. What I did was I put it on somebody else. Somebody who I sat next to for a while, co-teacher, I applied some to him. And then mashallah, I saw the benefit of it. Sometimes you can't see what's going on in your own self. It's much easier to see it on somebody else. That's why a lot of other people will see our faults and our silliness and our foolishness and our claims and all that stuff much more quicker than we can. It's just sometimes they're too polite to tell us sometimes. And the very straightforward ones, we don't like them. The straightforward ones who say it the way it is, we don't usually like those kind of people. So we try to avoid those kind of people, or we don't take them seriously. It's a weird world we live in, but what do you do? Anyway, then he says, فَإِنْ أَظْهَرَهَا. Now look, if you do reveal any excellence you think you have, right? If you do reveal it, like yourself, one is that it gets revealed. That's from Allah. That you can't do anything about that. And if somebody praises you for something that you did not reveal, but Allah revealed it, then you can just thank Allah and say, may Allah give me sincerity in it. That's different. But if you revealed it, if a person reveals it, فَهُوَ عَلَى خَطَرٍ, then you're in a great amount of danger. Because it could be multiple things now. Why did you reveal it for? Remember, there could be some exceptional cases of revealing these things just to maybe prove a point to somebody, for an ulterior motive. You have to be very careful about those. فَقَدْ يَكُونُ تَحَدُّثًا. Maybe you're doing it تَحَدُّثًا بِالنِّعْمَةِ, for a very particular, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. If Allah has given you a bounty, then you should sometimes reveal that. Be careful how you do it, right? Sometimes you do that. That's mostly in the case where, for example, if Allah has given you wealth and you act like a faqir to make people feel sorry for you, so they give you things and they help you out, that's really messed up, right? That's not right, to make people pity you, because why would you want people to pity you, right? For instance, وَقَدْ يَكُونُ تَبَجُّحًا. In some cases, it could be a boast. So it could either be because you genuinely want people to know about Allah's karam and His blessings, but in other cases, it's actually you're bragging. That's why وَفِي الْكِتْمَانِ السَّلَامَةِ. There's just safety in hiding it, in veiling it. There's just safety in hiding it. La ilaha illallah. Now, there's a statement that one of the mashayikh made, one of the scholars made. I'm going to see if you understand its relevance here. He says that if you see anybody who's answering every question he's asked and articulating and conveying everything that he has witnessed and remembering everything that he has learnt about, then from that you can understand how much ignorance he has. I'll leave that to you to figure that out. We can have a discussion about that later. One of the shuyukh, he said that one of my fellow students, whenever he would be asked that, you've been trying to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you've been doing dhikr and all of these tasbihat, etc., etc. all of this spiritual effort you're making, what have you got from that? Give me some of your experiences. Now you see that you could say, well, I want to encourage him. So again, this is personal. He says, وَمَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ وَمَا ذُقْتُمْ. What have you achieved and what have you tasted? What's been your experience? He would say, الْبَرْدُ وَالْجُوعُ, cold and hunger. That's what I've experienced in this. Right? Now, you don't have to do that. But that's what he decided to do. Just to hide everything else. And he says that their Shaykh used to really be impressed about that okay, that's one way of him. He never used to say that to the Shaykh, he's saying that to other people. Because that shows that you've got ikhlas, that you don't care about what people know. You don't want them to know, in fact. That's why it says that many of the, these righteous people, they would try to be very, very simple and low-key and not try to show their extreme piety in public, just so that it protects what's inside them purely and keeps it for the sake of Allah. They don't want it for the people, they want it for themselves. That's why they're saying that it's 70 times superior to have the goodness inside than to have it just outside. Because it's just a lot more valuable. There's a narration from Isa alayhi salam. Let's put it this way. There's a statement attributed to him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, but it's interesting. It says, إِذَا كَانَ يَوْمُ صَوْمِ أَحَدِكُمْ. Whenever one of you fast, if you're going to fast out of Ramadan, right? You don't do this in Ramadan. This is just after Ramadan for nawafil fast, for example. فَلْيَدَّهِنْ لِحْيَتَهُ وَيَمْسَحْ شَفَتَيْهِ. You should oil your beard. And you should moisten your lips. Just so people don't find out you're fasting. That's the idea, right? When you go out to the people, to show that you're not fasting, right? Whenever you give anything to somebody, give you with your right hand, just like the Prophet ﷺ said, so that your left hand does not know. Which is a really extreme statement, just to show that you need to give in a way that you've forgotten afterwards. So your left hand, your left hand is going to know, because your mind controls both, obviously. I don't know if anybody physically can do that, right? Whenever one of you prays, then make sure you put a cover on your door. Nowadays, just close your door. Make sure your door isn't open. Right? Don't do it in public places. Because if you really want praise, Allah is just like you believe, and everybody believes this, that your rizq, your sustenance is distributed by Allah, right? يَرْزُقُ مَن يَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. That's Allah, right? In the same way, Allah also يُقَسِّمُ الثَّنَاء. The praise of a person is also distributed by Allah. Yes, you can go and put yourself out there on Facebook and Instagram and Threads and Twitter and everything new that comes out, and pay for promotion and all the rest of it. You'll get somewhere with that, but that's not the praise that is praiseworthy. That praise is not praiseworthy in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, I'll tell you about an interesting thing. Shaykh Zakaria, rahimahullah. There's a scholar, he was a Mufti. He came to him to learn dhikr and so on, right? And then Shaykh Zakaria also considered him worthy and gave him what they call khilafah, that okay, you can actually help others. He is from the northwest province of Pakistan, right? He went there and disappeared. He's like 5, 6, 7 hours away from Islamabad. So he's in the middle of nowhere in some village. Nobody knew him. He came and, mashallah, got this kind of, studied and got this achievement, ma'rif or whatever it was, and he disappeared. Another one of the students of Shaykh Zakaria went looking for him, found him, and then told everybody about him that, this man, this Maulana, this Mufti Sahib, he's actually really connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He got very angry. Until now, nobody knew him or about him. He got very angry. But then after that, this is just Allah wanted it to be. Now, I've seen pictures of this place. His place in Medina, is in wherever that place is. In the middle of nowhere. It takes 5, 6 hours or so from the big city. Is packed with so many people coming to benefit from him. And he did not want any of that. And there's the rest of us who want something before we've even got anything to prove. We want to shoot we want a satellite in the sky, a star. You know, can't have a real star, then you shoot a satellite up. Right? There's a number of scholars like that. There's a number of great people like that who wanted to just stay low, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened it up for them. Shaykh Abu Abdullah al-Qurashi, he says, anybody who's not content and satisfied in his actions and his statements, that just Allah is seeing him and hearing him, like if that's not enough for him, then Riya and showing off will inevitably come to him, because you're leaving that door open. What else is Riya except that other people know? Another statement, ما أخلص عبد قط إلا أحب أن يكون في جب لا يعرف. That's a difficult one. He said that there's nobody who can get full ikhlas and sincerity except the one who just wants to be in a pit, unknown. Not literally, but you'd rather just be in a pit that nobody knows me. Now again, there could be reasons for being known, right? But you just have to make sure your ego doesn't come into that. That's why he's saying that if you want to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're going to have to make this sacrifice. Showing off is one of the biggest pitfalls on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it'll just consume everything. Now you might say that there are some mashayikh, and everybody recognizes them as people of Allah, accomplished, and they will mention their accomplishments. Why is that right? How, if this is so strict, why are they doing that? So he's saying that you can do that, or Allah will make you do that, or allow you to do that once you've purified yourself in such a way that everything is for Allah. So when you do it, there's going to be no ego in it. You know, when I've been saying that it could be exceptional cases to that, that's when there's no more ego. When you do say it, it's to encourage somebody, or to show somebody how it's achieved, or for another purpose like that. You're doing it for the sake of Allah in that case, but that's very, very difficult to do unless you've really got tawheed. Only once you've established full tawheed in your life, every aspect of tawheed where everything is Allah and nothing else, purely every worship of yours, Lord, every aspect of tawheed, only then will you be able to achieve that, which is quite an achievement. That's when you got full ubudiyyah. When you got full tawheed, then you can have full ubudiyyah. Ubudiyyah means full servitude, otherwise you can't have it. Full ubudiyyah has to go with full tawheed, otherwise you can't get, they're both concomitant with one another. One of the Salaf, they used to wake up in the morning and say, at night time I did this many rak'ats. I don't know how many, but he said I did this many rak'ats. This is how much Quran I read. So somebody who said, aren't you fearful of Riya? Like, what's your problem? Why do you keep saying this stuff? So he would say, وَيْحَكُمْ وَهَلْ رَأَيْتُمْ مَنْ يُرَائِي بِفِعْلِ غَيْرِهِ? What's your problem? How can I show off with somebody else's action? Basically he's trying to say that, like, he's just so beyond his ego that he doesn't even see that as his action. He's just like, Allah gave me this tawfiq to do it. But let's not try that. The conclusion of all of this is very simple, that anybody who finally manages to get beyond their own nafs and beyond their own self, and it's all about Allah afterwards, and they have gained that witnessing of their Lord in the sense that, they experience Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they're thinking about Him all the time, then of course we can't criticize that kind of a person, and Allah will not criticize that kind of person because they're doing it for the most sincere reasons. Now there are three categories of people essentially. Man ahabba al-khafa fahuwa abdul khafa. Whoever wants to be hidden, then he's the slave of being hidden, right? وَمَنْ أَحَبَّ الظُّهُورِ فَهُوَ عَبْدُ الظُّهُورِ. And anybody who wants to be known, then he's the slave of being known, a slave of fame. Both of those are not good positions to be. You don't want to be hidden for the sake of being hidden. You want to do it for the Allah. So that's why then he says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يُرِدْ غَيْرَ مَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِهِ فَهُوَ عَبْدُ اللَّهِ حَقًّا. And the one who doesn't want anything but what Allah wants, where he's like, oh Allah, I just want you to do for me whatever it is, and I'm willing to do whatever it is that you want to do, then he is the true servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how Shaykh Abdullah Gangohi summarizes it in English. He says, truth in the state of worship, truth in your worship is the diversion of the gaze from all things except Allah. Like purely my worship is for Allah. The attention of the servant should turn solely to Allah Most High. If the servant possesses this, then he is true to his servitude. If he desires people to become informed of his pious acts and his special spiritual conditions, and he adopts various methods for publicizing these, then he should know that he is not sincere. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us sincerity. It is so elusive, it is so difficult, because shaitan really doesn't want us. Once a person gains sincerity, he's got servitude. You know, you're fully sincere, you've got a lot of servitude. That's why shaitan is going to always try to create problems. For those people who are naturally low-key and they just don't like limelight, it's easier for them. It's just easier for them. They have other challenges. And those of us who like a bit of limelight, who like to be heard and seen, it's just more difficult for us. But Allah can give it to everybody. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us this tawfiq. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام اللهم يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث يا حنان يا منان يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا غفار يا فتاح يا ستار يا حفيظ يا سلام يا لطيف. Ya Allah, have mercy on us. Ya Allah, accept us. Ya Allah, purify us. Ya Allah, purify us and forgive us. We ask you for your special grace. We ask you for your special mercy. We ask you for your generosity. We ask you for your rahmah. We ask you for your benevolence. We ask you for your kindness. Oh Allah, we are nothing without your kindness. Oh Allah, we are nothing without your attention. Oh Allah, you have given us so much more than so many others in this world. Oh Allah, do not make us of the ungrateful ones. Do not make us of the ungrateful ones. Oh Allah, we ask that you make us of the shakireen, of those who thank you and who are grateful. And oh Allah, of those who do not use the resources that you have given us against you. You do not allow us, oh Allah, to use the resources to become a burden for us. Oh Allah, we ask you to protect us from all forms of fitna and trials that are out there, all the challenges, all the distractions, and all of the means of removing any sincerity that we may have. Oh Allah, give us the ability to become close to you, to remember you, to love you, and oh Allah, to be on the way of your Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Oh Allah, we ask you forgiveness from those sins that have now become part of our life and we do not consider them sins anymore. Oh Allah, we ask you protection from those sins that bring depression in our lives, that bring difficulties in our life, that turn people against one another, that turn hearts against one another, that take parents away from their children and children away from their parents. Oh Allah, we ask you protection from those sins that take the blessing out of our life. Oh Allah, that take happiness out of our life. Oh Allah, we ask that you make our life full of taqwa and full of sincerity and full of tawakkul and full of zuhud and full of wara'. Satisfy us with what is halal so we don't have to look at the haram. Oh Allah, satisfy us with the halal, away from the haram. Oh Allah, make us of those who remember you frequently, who are always remembering you and standing and sitting and lying down. Oh Allah, make this easy for us. Grab us by the forelocks and enter us into paradise. Oh Allah, we get up in the morning with good intentions. Oh Allah, we have good intentions in the evening, but by the morning we have lost. Oh Allah, we get up with good intentions, but we've fallen by the end of the day. Oh Allah, this shaitan, give us a shield from him. We've seen in this world when there's children who are learning to walk and then they get tired of walking, the parents will pick them up. Oh Allah, we're tired of fighting against this shaitan. We need your assistance. And our nafs, we need your assistance. Remove this ego from our hearts. And oh Allah, we ask that you make us of the muqimeen as-salah and our descendants until the day of judgment. Oh Allah, keep this iman and tawheed and sunnah in all of our descendants until the day of judgment. Oh Allah, keep us firm in our faith. Oh Allah, keep us firm in our faith. Oh Allah, these projects that we have to establish these masajid and the expansion of these masajid, all these projects, oh Allah, allow them to be completed as soon as possible. Remove the obstacles. And oh Allah, all of these difficulties we may be facing in our life or challenges, oh Allah, remove them. Oh Allah, grant us and make us the way you want us to be. grant us the kalima la ilaha illallah on our deathbed. Reward all of those who've taught us whatever we have learnt to be on your faith. Reward everybody until up to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Gather us with the righteous people on the Day of Judgment in your shade. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun al mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. The point of a lecture is to encourage people to act, to get further. An inspiration, an encouragement, persuasion. The next step is to actually start learning seriously, to read books, to take on a subject of Islam and to understand all the subjects of Islam, at least at their basic level, so that we can become more aware of what our deen wants from us. And that's why we started Rayyan courses, so that you can actually take organized lectures on demand whenever you have free time, especially, for example, the Islamic Essentials course that we have on there, the Islamic Essentials Certificate, which you take 20 short modules, and at the end of that, inshallah, you will have gotten the basics of most of the most important topics in Islam, and you'll feel a lot more confident. You don't have to leave lectures behind. You can continue to leave, to listen to lectures, but you need to have this more sustained study as well. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The point of a lecture is to encourage people to act, to get further. An inspiration, an encouragement, persuasion. The next step is to actually start learning seriously, to read books, to take on a subject of Islam and to understand all the subjects of Islam, at least at their basic level, so that we can become more aware of what our deen wants from us. And that's why we started Rayyan courses, so that you can actually take organized lectures on demand whenever you have free time, especially, for example, the Islamic Essentials course that we have on there, the Islamic Essentials Certificate, which you take 20 short modules, and at the end of that, inshallah, you will have gotten the basics of most of the most important topics in Islam, and you'll feel a lot more confident. You don't have to leave lectures behind. You can continue to leave, to listen to lectures, but you need to have this more sustained study as well. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.